Ooh, what is just revealed to me. Um, I, this is going to hurt, but it needs to be said. It's already been revealed, kind of in a way, within the story, but it takes someone to critically think and to read between the lines. And here goes. Elohim, Yah, God, basically it wanted us to depend solely on it for everything. Basically, no independence, just dependency, because it created the first portal. Like I said, it was the first portal, the first form of creation. Although we assume that, I already pointed out other thoughts and possibility of other beings. But basically, and Enoch shows this with the Watchers. And we can only assume, and I even pointed back this in my animation drawings about the Elohim, about God just being just the wide, the ones, and the portals being to themselves. The one I said this before, 1 plus 1 and 0 plus 0, and 0 plus 1 equals the anomaly. So continues the evil, the sin, everything. But here it goes from another perspective. Enoch was the Watchers. It was just, and we assumed that it was all males, ones. It was no female angels, and even they have pointed at this. It was nothing but male angels. So the only time they fell to women. They fell to them portals, those matrix wounds, some other wounds. And then that's when all the issues came. They taught them divinations. They weren't supposed to teach them divination. They weren't supposed to teach them vegetation. They wasn't supposed to teach them music. Nothing. They wasn't supposed to teach them anything. It wanted them. It wanted to be the only one to create, to force existence, to force any being into existence, if it saw fit. But they allowed them their independence, and due to their own independence, they caused their own fall. The Nephilim started eating and waited each other, some of them, and that's what gave way to partial reason as to why the deluge happened, to clean up the mess of creation. Because angels fell, men fell to women. Angels, even though they were angels, they're watchers. They weren't supposed to do that. And it claimed by Genesis when Elohim or the Most High, something decided to force existence yet again, force a being, a vessel, and put a spark in it, and it made a female. And we assuming because I'm assuming that the Enoch, those events happened before the garden. So when it happened, it felt okay. Let me give you a helpmate. Let me give you the opposite gender. Just in those watchers decide to fall to the female. So let me try this time, but without X six by six. He didn't want. He didn't want them to do it, even though he built them with the reproductive organs. It warned you not to eat of the fruit. So when they did eat of the fruit, it showed that it was symbolic, and that was symbolic that they decided their own hardship over Elohim, the one who wanted to provide them everything already. They caused their own suffering. They learned of their flesh. They learned of evil. And they learned of everything. They learned of the divinations yet again. They learned of the war. destruction, hurt, all the good and the bad of life that comes with it. They continue through their bloodline the sins yet again. So it happened with the Watchers and it happened with mankind. So it just keeps, that's the problem. So I'm not for sure, I don't want to say it like this, but I'm saying it to where it is apparent that we should not, heterosexuality is, it should not be happening, especially with Christ coming back and showing us what is preferred, is trying to save us from ourselves, basically, because Adam made the mistake of picking EloHiym, picking Eve over EloHiym, not picking EloHiym, not picking the first portal, the one that created. We I'm not sure if it is the first portal or not, but it still was a being that wanted you to pick it over other portals. Um, when Cain was kicked out and was sealed, it was other beings already out and about. So we can assume that it was probably other beings, and that's why it's jealous. They don't want you to pick other EloHiym before it, stuff like that. Um, I don't want to assume, but that was what it's about. I'm assuming it was all males with angels, companionship happened up there. I don't know if there was any form of companionship up there or anything. I mean, but we can assume, what we do know and what we can see through the stories, through the actions, is that men weren't supposed to. Those angels, those beings was not supposed to pick women. Consummating. Because it led to them serving the woman over EloHiym. And it led to the sins and the problems that we in some cases forced not to deal with. The hardships of sustaining a world, all that. Just because the man decides to fall to the female. Not all, but I'm just saying. That's the pattern. That's what was shown. So now it's still up to the Adams to give birth. I mean, that's basically it. To go and seek the permanent salvation. And if it wants other beings to still exist, other humans, it can create the humans itself. That's my assumption, because it knows how to create. It didn't need any of these beings didn't need humans to create in the first place. It wasn't necessary, because something they created, this fabrication, did it without the need of humans doing it. So if it created the animals, if it created the earth, if it created this fabrication, and forced even humans into exist, although none of these beings asked to exist, to consent, they didn't consent to being created. Basically, it didn't need anyone else's assistance to create, because he had it on his own. So that's where creation, the mess, happened. And the best thing to do is, I say, to just go with thing, because that just ends a lot of the mess that creation had caused through the act of human ambition. Um, Now, um, I don't want to put emphasis on or hints on other forms of desire because I'm not sure if I don't want to just wrongly assume these things for some reason. You don't want to pervert but I would think if they have emotions, if those angels have emotions, and I'm wondering if it did because the son had emotions, so I would think the angels had emotions, um, and that's why I say I use, let's say, compassion. So um, I'm saying what I'm saying, that it was sufficient without being with a union, being of the other being to force creation. Because when you birthing, you're mimicking creation. You're mimicking God. You're mimicking the EloHiym. You are mimicking something that forced the earth, these creation into position. Maybe it was one source or multiple beings that created this fabrication, that created the animals, the sky, the heavens, and the earth. And there, and think about it like this: if it created you to help it create, there wouldn't be a forbidden fruit in the first place. There wouldn't be anything forbidden about the fruit, the knowledge of eating it, and then you learning how to your body's flesh, and then you acting in your flesh with the opposite gender to force other beings into existence. If it needed you to do that, it wouldn't have no problem with y'all consummating and giving birth in the first place. It wouldn't. It would have just gave you the fruit in itself. It would have said, "Here you go, eat," and then play with yourselves amongst yourselves, like it. So really, you got to think which sexuality is the problem. Which one insults creation itself? Because it wouldn't be homosexuality. I'm sorry. What challenges the fabricators of this world? They created the animals. They created everything else before humans decided to learn of their flesh and then they created their so-called heaven on top of the heaven that we all reside on, the plane of existence, the earth. If it needed us to create it, we would have been there to create the earth and the heaven and the sky and all. And for all we know and read and researched, they said that the Christ, Yahusha, the Hamashiach, was supposed to be present when it created the earth, the EloHiym, which is plural. In some cases, used plural, it used singular. It's used for lowercase lords, kings, people that rule nations, stuff like that. I mean, you have to look at this stuff critically. Why, if it was really meant for humans to procreate. It was just really a good thing. It wouldn't have forbidden it in the first place.